Hi everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today, a discussion again about an article that I read in my kind of news perusal. This one out of San Antonio, and the title here, Behind the Alarming Post-Pandemic Rise in Gun Incidents at San Antonio Area Schools. It has some interesting things for us to consider as good, sane, sober, moral people and firearms owners. Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. So I'm not really trolling for these kinds of articles, not really looking for them, but they show up in my news feed from time to time. And I thought we would continue to kind of discuss them a little bit because I find some interesting stuff in them and I thought I would bring it to you. And maybe you can share this video around with some folks who maybe they aren't firearms owners, and we can find some ways to help, because there's some interesting findings in this particular one out of San Antonio, Texas. So this is in the San Antonio Express News. I have put a link in the description to it in 2 ways, on their website and on Apple News. On their website, it's behind a paywall, and there's nothing I can do about that. I use Apple News Plus, so I pay Apple for news for the month, and that unlocks a bunch of stuff too. So I don't know if it's going to work for you without that. If not, you'll just have to trust me, or if you're using Apple News Plus, you can hit that link in the description and certainly read the article for yourself, and I'd recommend it. I think it has some good, valuable stuff. A couple things they note. From a statistical perspective, a humongous increase in firearms-related incidents in basically kids carrying guns at school in San Antonio area schools after the pandemic. So they called 2020 and 2021, years that were hacked up because of the pandemic, and the number of incidents they had obviously were very, very low because students weren't in class. Then they saw a big spike in 2022 and in 2023. It's interesting though, I'll show you the graphic here that they showed, that they really didn't address the fact that it looks like 2024, those numbers are trending back towards their pre-pandemic numbers. And that's kind of interesting to me. Again, I'm not a statistician. I did take 5 semesters of calculus in college for my degree, and also one of those was statistics, which is just enough statistics to get you in trouble with statistics, right? But I do think that not recognizing, hey, it sure seems like we had a humongous spike right afterwards. And in Texas in particular, in 2022, remember, they had the murders at Uvalde High School, and therefore, I don't think it was, so Uvalde, right, in Uvalde, Texas. I don't think it was a high school. I'm sorry, the details are fuzzy to me right this minute. And so then a lot of students arming themselves from those as self-defense and protection went down in 2023 a little bit, and then way down in 2024. So I think somewhat maybe there could be some regression towards the mean there. So, watch out for things, because there are, as Benjamin Disraeli said, 3 kinds of lies, right? There are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. But there were a couple of other things that they saw with this, because they're using drug sniffing dogs that are also trained to detect the presence of gunpowder. So they are basically have firearm sniffing dogs that are, I think they have 3 of them in San Antonio, and they go through high schools. So most of their incidents are at high schools, though they have recovered them from kids as young as 3. Let that sink in for a minute. Some, in middle school and even in elementary school. About 40% of the firearms seizings that they have, now they haven't had a kid shoot up a school since Uvalde, but about 40% of the incidents of firearms recovered involved drugs of some kind. So you're talking 37 incidents that they had over those couple years that they looked at. About 40% of them, or I think it was 17 of them, involved drugs, which means, again, kids involved in drugs are in dangerous activities. They're going to get involved in violent activities as well. But that does mean 60% of them didn't. Now, where did those kids get those guns? Well, they said that some of them got them unlocked and unsecured at their parents' home. Okay. Number two place, and the most popular place by a long shot that they said that they got them, was by stealing them out of cars. And the number three place that they got them was by acquiring them illegally. Obviously, a 16-year-old can't legally buy a firearm for themselves, but they can get them on the black market. And so mostly stolen from vehicles or bought illegally, but also some unsecured in their home. One kid said that he got a gun out of his mom's safe by breaking into it with a shovel. Now that's interesting to me. So I want to talk about those particular issues and what they mean for us. Number one, I think that preventing unauthorized users from accessing your firearms is an absolute responsibility for all firearms owners. So if you own firearms, then I just can't say enough. I think you need to secure those guns from unauthorized access. And that, for the most part, means keeping them in some kind of residential security container. Now, there's a lot of really crappy things that are marketed as safes. Remember, to be an actual safe, it has to have an actual like Underwriters Laboratories, like certification on it. And most don't meet that. They are instead residential security containers. But even those, for the most part, will keep most teenagers out of stuff. But there are some crappy ones. You see, like, I'll give you, for instance, you see like the company that makes the crappy thing called a stop box that doesn't stop anybody from getting into it. First of all, there's only like 5 combinations available to it. Secondly, it's made out of plastic and you can pry it open with a screwdriver in about 10 seconds. That thing is crap. Stay away from it. Secondly, a lot of the crap that you'll buy on Amazon or you'll buy at Costco or something like that won't withstand any kind of prying at all. It's just like a little cabinet that has a lock on it, basically. It's like a lock cabinet that you could have gotten at Home Depot. Those won't really do any good. And if a kid wants to get in there, if they know there's guns in there, they can get in there with a shovel or with a pickaxe or with a crowbar that's out in the garage. I just can't recommend those at all. You should have something that has some serious pry resistance, and that means a purpose-built residential security container. I have a very sturdy safe in my house that is bolted to the floor and is certified that you can hit it with pickaxes for an hour and you're not going to get in there. And I recommend that highly. You gotta keep the guns in your house secure, especially if you got kids in the house. And I know somebody's gonna say, well, John, my kids would never do anything like that. That's what all the parents in these incidents say too. Well, not my child. My child is a good child. Well, of course, the egregious ones that you hear about on the news aren't those, but most of these kids bringing guns to school, they're doing so in ways that a lot of times their parents say, we don't have any guns in the house. And then the police go and search the room because they posted something on social media or they made a threat to a friend. And sure enough, that kid has brought a gun into the house that mom and dad didn't even know there was a gun in the house. Or, well, my children are taught the rules of safe firearms handling. They don't play with guns, right up until they do. Okay, I've got, I introduced my kids to guns when they were as young as 5 years old. Took them out hunting, they understood firearms, and yet every gun was kept in a safe. And my kids are adults now, and guess what? I only have adults living in my house, and every gun is kept in the safe. We don't leave firearms unsecured. I do not believe it is good, sane, sober, moral, or prudent to leave guns unsecured in your house. Even if you don't live with children or with unstable adults or with prohibited possessors, I won't, and I don't recommend leaving guns unsecured because somebody might break into your house and home invasions happen, and that is a vector for bad guys getting guns. So don't do it. And of course, the big one on this, I can't believe I continue to have to say this, is that number one vector these kids are getting guns from is they are stealing them out of cars. And now the news story kind of says that this is all about the proliferation of firearms since the pandemic. Certainly there's been record years of firearms sales since the pandemic. And so there's more easy access to guns. And I think that's a little inflammatory language. I don't love all that. But there is some truth to the idea that says people are leaving guns in their glove boxes, under the driver's seat of their truck, and garbage like that. And they even said in there, you can walk through a parking lot and you can pretty well tell which car is going to have a gun in it. And I can't tell you the number of parking lots, and I've taken pictures and put them on my personal Facebook and, with a bunch of stickers on the back of it and said, anybody want a free gun? Because there's absolutely one in that truck right now. And it's probably sitting in the glove box. Don't do that, please. If you feel like you have to keep a gun in the car, it needs to be in a locked and a strong locked container that is bolted to the vehicle, that cannot be removed from the vehicle, and is a strong container that they can't pry open with a screwdriver in 30 seconds, okay? And those are fairly rare, to be honest with you, and they cost a little bit of money. They cost 100, 150 bucks for those kinds of protection. If you can't do that, you do not leave a gun in the car. Well, John, what am I gonna do if I gotta go in somewhere that is, a non-permissive environment? Either leave the gun at home or spend the money and the time to lock that gun up. It's the number one vector for felons acquiring firearms is in locked vehicles, or unlocked vehicles rather. They steal them out of unlocked vehicles that people leave guns in. And don't leave guns unsecured in cars. And certainly don't leave your doors unlocked in your car, because you're gonna get your stuff stolen, okay? So yes, I do think you need to talk to your children about firearms. I think, some people are probably in the comments going to be complaining about parents not raising their children. And okay, there's probably some of that, but very little of it, honestly. I think in reality, what happens is that you were probably a teenager once too, right? And you probably hid from your family too. Pardon my bad language on that, but that's just the reality of things. You hid crap from your mom and dad. And you said, oh, mom and dad didn't know that I was doing all the things that I was doing. And that is much more the reality than, oh, parents aren't parenting anymore. I know every generation likes to gripe about the generation that comes after it. And I know plenty, I'm a Gen Xer, and I know plenty of millennials who are parents, and I know Gen Zers who are parents now. They're coming of age and reproducing. And generally speaking, they're fantastic parents who are engaged in their children's lives. As a big rule, right? Now, are there parents who are bad parents? Yes. And it's up to us to love our families enough to help them in those situations and to come alongside them. So no unlocked guns, not in the house, not in the car, for goodness sakes, too. Yeah, talk to your kids about firearms safety, about how to deal with this stuff in their schools. And I also know there's going to be some people who say you should never send your children to government schools. You should instead homeschool your children, and there's a whole movement in that, and those people are very vocal. I was a 12-year homeschooler. I was always an enthusiastic homeschooler, but not a militant homeschooler. And then we transitioned our children to the public school or the government school environment, and my children had fantastic teachers, fantastic administrators, really fantastic experience. And I know not everybody has that, but I have nothing bad to say about the public education system. My kids' teachers were amazing. And I think they did the best job making chicken salad out of chicken feathers every day of the week. We were heavily invested in our kids' schooling even after we transitioned out of homeschooling. So let's keep that at bay too, okay? And listen, I think those are the lessons out of this article. I think that if you can read it, I think it's worth reading. And I think let's remember, no unlocked guns, not in the home, not in cars. Talk to your kids about firearm safety, and when they go to school, they should be paying attention and radar up. And when they hear something like that, they need to go get help, because we want to interdict these incidents early. We don't want the kids to go, gosh, man, he said something about that 2 weeks ago, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get anybody in trouble. Nope, teach your kids. If there's a student that makes a threat against themselves, that they might harm themselves, or a threat against others, you see something that's concerning to you, that, man, that could be violent. You got to teach your kids to raise the flag, because they're probably going to see it before the teachers, before the administrators, before you from the outside will see it. So I think it's a good article. It makes us think and talk about some stuff. And I hope that helps you to think about this and go talk to your kids about firearm stuff. And please don't leave guns unlocked. God bless you, everybody. Download the ASP Unlimited app for all the content you love from active self-protection and more, with no interference from YouTube. No ads, no age gates, exclusive videos, seminars, classes, and more on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. Hit the link in the description or download ASP Unlimited from your app store today.